This was one of my first opportunities for a in-person physical residency. So I went overseas to Paris, and I actually wanted to kind of experience the place more as like a local than a tourist. So most of the time you would stay there for a few days or a few weeks. Instead, I had a full 2 months to kind of really immerse myself in the environment. And a lot of the works you see here are more or less wanderings around the city or explorations, really trying to capture the space as a local. So I recorded that kind of information using GPS and light data, and you can kind of see hints of subtle influences and conversations through how the works turned out as I talked with local artists and other people, whether they became friends, acquaintances, or strangers. They actually changed the work in small little ways. And as you can see, some of the works made data into these slightly more colorful, more visceral pieces. In my processes, I always try and find ways to translate data into physical pieces. So it's not always a particular medium or technique that I will use. But in this case, I was particularly drawn to some technique, more traditional mediums such as printmaking, because it allowed me to combine more modern techniques such as laser engraving and 3D printing into a still very physical, still very in touch with the medium kind of process of which was printmaking. And some people have kind of mentioned that it is not like my practice is more a case of finding ways of translating the digital process or various intangible elements through a digital medium and techniques into physical works. So this was some sort of like a natural progression for me to kind of explore this translation and transition into a physical space, which is at the end of the day kind of part of my goal in my practice. Like a lot of my works, I want people to have their own perspective or find their angle they love the most, because the work is more or less only complete, especially for installations and sculptures, when the audience kind of interacts with it in that kind of form. Most of the time people think of interactive works with some kind of gestural movement or some kind of they have to respond to the work in a more physical way. But I think and I appreciate when people come up with their own viewpoints or what the work reminds them of or a choice that they have. And I really love listening to those impressions. And I hope that after viewing this exhibition, they have an entirely new viewpoint on what the space around them can be and the potential that data brings them, not only from a very numerical and scientific data analytic standpoint, but more from a creative data visualization and artistic view.